You said 7 core values. I'd like you to retell those to me, and then I'm going to pick one of them and ask you to go into it. So I got duty, honesty, integrity, love, courage. What else we got?
So they're in order. So it runs from courage is first, and then honesty, and then integrity. We talked about having the courage to be ruthlessly honest with yourself, lead you to live in integrity, right? The fourth one is commitment, and commitment's a pivot point. Commitment is commitment to yourself first, and then commitment to others. And it's about keeping those commitments, making and keeping those commitments. And then duty. And you have a duty as your responsibility to your family, to your country, to yourself, to your business, to whatever it is. So you have that duty, and then honor. And honor is really important, especially as young men. I've done some of the group stuff that I've done with men. We're honoring each other, but also honor your father. We had a trip one time. I took a bunch of guys to Glacier, Montana, and we did a thing. It happened to be right before Father's Day. And one of the guys went home and I'm going to honor my father on Father's Day. And he said he told his father all these things he honored about him and loved about him and appreciated about him. And he said he's never seen his father cry his whole life. He said his father was weeping. And he said it inspired his younger brother and sister to do the same. And the father was just so moved by this. He said, all I've done my whole life is just done for you kids so you could be successful. And they were all successful kids. And so that's honor. And it's very, very important that we honor ourselves, we honor others, and then love. And I'll be honest with you, Ned, when we were putting these together, it was a group of about 9 of us, men, that do the work that my mentor, Rob James, put together, the Self-Discovery Life Mastery. Rob decided it was time for us to put a list of this together. And when love was brought up, I argued against it. I actually thought it felt weak, right? Gives you an idea of where I was at the time in my growth. And I said, no, that's just weak. Love, that just sounds sappy. But in all honesty, love's the most powerful thing there is in the universe. Love is, right? Love is all there is. And so we have love at the end of the list. So courage and love are the alpha and the omega of this list. And I use them as a litmus test, man. It's for me, it's if I get something that comes up or something that happens, I run through these 7 and it's got to fulfill them. Otherwise I don't do it. And especially integrity. If I do something and it doesn't feel it's in integrity, then I just don't do it. I don't commit to it. So yeah, they're a North Star. They're a way to guide yourself on the path.
Yeah. Okay. So as I hear you say these, this is going to be a very general statement, but I see or feel that there's a lot of men who are good at 1, 2, and 3, very self-focused. I'm myself, I'm learning and growing, and I'm kind of caught in this self-development, which is great, right? But sometimes there's the guy who at every month he's at the self-development thing. He's learning. And then is he applying it in his real life? Then I see other guys who are slowly dying on the 5, 6, and 7. So duty, it's my duty. I'm just going to go to work. It's the honorable thing to do. I'm going to love my family while they're slowly dying inside because they're not connecting the first 3 with the last 3 with the one that you have in the middle of commitment. So if we could spend a minute on commitment, that's really tying, okay, I'm choosing to become a better man for the sake of others, that I'm showing up. Really, my duty is, I'm just not loving my wife and my kids because I'm supposed to. It's my honor. It means the world to me, right? So any other thoughts that come up for you on this commitment piece, this pivot point? What does that what does that mean to really connect the two?
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff we can dive into on that one. I have a saying in the work that I do, and it is, if it's good for the king, it's good for the kingdom, right? So here's what that means. If the king is sick and broke and pissed off, sad, unfulfilled, tired, how does that reflect on his kingdom, right? The kingdom's going to be a mirror of that. But if the king is happy and healthy and wealthy and fulfilled and passionate and all of those things, well, then how is his kingdom look? So I get a lot of men who tell me, well, I'm working 80 hours a week for my family so I can provide, and I'm doing it for them. And that's martyr syndrome right there. You're just killing yourself for them. But when you take on, if it's good for the king, it's good for the kingdom, you understand that you actually are doing for yourself so you can do for them, right? You are being as strong as you can be so you can do for them. So, and a lot of men, once they've taken this on, love it. I have one guy, and his thing was, when he got home from work, he didn't want to do the whole talk to his wife about the problems and what's going on, the bills that needed to be paid and all of that. He wanted to play with his kids. So he would tell me, and I happen to know his wife, and she told me, he comes through the door now and he gives her a kiss, gives her a hug, and he goes, "What's good for the king is good for the kingdom. I'm going to go play with the kids for an hour." And she's like, "It's the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced," because he's in there playing with them. He's having a great time. It's fulfilling the family. So tying it to commitment. We make commitments a lot of the time. And I know this was me. So I'm speaking from experience where I would make commitments or agree to commitments knowing full well I wasn't going to follow through just because I didn't want to say no to whoever that was, right? You get invited to a barbecue and you're like, "I don't want to go to your barbecue, dude." But I would say, "Yeah, oh, sounds great, man. We'll be there." And then you break that commitment the day before. And we do this to our family. We do this to our kids. Like we'll tell them, "Yeah, I'll be at your ball game." And then something comes up at work and you're like, "Oh man, I can't be there. I have to go do this." Well, what I tell men is look at what are you more committed to? Are you more committed to going to the ball game because you made that commitment and promise? Or are you more committed to some meeting at work that you might be able to change the day and time of? Where are you breaking commitments? And where are you keeping commitments? Where are you making commitments you're not going to follow through on? It is so much better to say no to somebody. And again, speaking from experience, I found this when I dropped the nice guy routine and, I'll be there, and went into the, "Look, man, I appreciate the invitation, but I'm not going to make it." And that's really all you have to say. And a lot of times, "Oh, why?" They're trying to enroll you back in. Listen, I just told you I'm not going to make it. And the same thing with if you've made a promise to the family to do something and something else comes up, look at where you're more committed. And to me, it would be the family. And I would tell that meeting, "Hey, man, I'm either not going to be there or record it, send me the notes, do whatever it is, but you got to be committed." And I will tell you something else, Ned. This was a great thing. I interviewed a former Navy SEAL commander a while back, and he's now retired. He spent, I don't know, 19 or 20 years on the teams. He retired and he now coaches executives. And one of the things he told me that I couldn't believe, and I put it to the test, and he's right. He said, there are very, very few people who can commit to something for more than 5 days. And he said, that's what breaks the separates the SEALs from everybody else. When we commit, we are full on, locked down, laser focused, committed. But other people aren't. And if you can't, and he said, one of the major things is say 5 days. So I'm going to eat a certain way for 5 days. I'm going to cut sugar out of my diet for 5 days. I'm not going to have coffee for 5 days. I'm going to work out for 5 days or go for a walk or whatever. I'm going to write in a journal for 5 days. He said, most people make it to 3. And then they just, oh, that's it. And he said the one thing that he found was that the one person that we break commitments to more than anybody else is, who would you think, Ned? Who do we break the commitments to the most? Say it again? Ourselves. We break commitments to ourselves more than we do to anybody else. So the commitment, the sacred value of commitment is understanding how important it is to yourself and to people that are out there. Don't make commitments. Again, be ruthlessly honest about whether or not you're going to take this commitment on and stick to it, right? And that's the thing with commitment and why it's so important.
Yeah, I love the word you used. You said it's sacred, and our word is sacred. We as men, we get to speak life or death, and when we are making commitments, right, we're speaking life, but then our actions have to follow through on that. So, an activity I would challenge you guys to do is go write down your top 3 to 5 commitments. If you are looking at the life of Ned in this season, what are my top 3 to 5 commitments? And then look at your calendar the last 2 weeks and see, does it line up with what your heart wants, right? Are you doing something different with your time than what you're hoping? Because I think sometimes oh yeah, I date my wife. And you're like, okay, show me your calendar. Oh, shoot. Yeah, it was 6 months ago the last time we went on a date or whatever. So I think it's good to actually evaluate and be honest with yourself. Okay, a couple questions, Eric. I know we could wrap forever, and I'll say this in a bit, but I would to set up another podcast with you. So I'll bring that back in a bit. You are a stepfather to 3 adult girls. What advice would you give to a father who has found themselves on the path of being a stepdad, right? Because you had your experience, right, of them at different stages stepping in. I'm sure there was highs, I'm sure there was lows, but from your wisdom, what would you share with a guy who may be in the thick of it with a stepkid who he's trying to love and lead them?
That's a great question. I love that. And knowing I was coming on the show, it really made me look at where I was at when I was stepdad to these young women now. But one of them was 16 months old when her mom and I got together. And mom and I were together for about 8, 9 years. So I was really through the young years with her. And I think one of the things I would tell my younger self, and when we got together, I was in my early 30s. And what I would say is, was instant dad. Everyone always says that, oh, I'm going to be an instant dad, an instant mom. Well, there's some greatness to being an instant dad. But one of the things that I would change was where I was at in my early 30s. I was still very, very much in the people pleaser, in the nice guy. Oh, I got to be the perfect dad. Here's this little girl. She's so cute. She's a year and a half, 2 years old. But I think the thing that I did more than anything that I would change is I did everything possible to make this girl me. And I think I even did it later on in my early 50s when I got together with Dawn, and her daughters were in their mid to late 20s at the time. Kind of the same thing, but I stopped myself on those because it wasn't really about having them me. I looked at it as, what purpose did it serve to work that hard to make them me, right? This is a mutual thing. We're going to be a family to the extent we're going to be a family. But my real role is to be that steward you mentioned earlier, to steward these young women and to be there for their mother and to be a really great husband to their mother and let them know how much I loved her and cared for her the same that they did. And when I did that with the relationship that I'm in now with those two young women, there was a little bit of at the beginning. And I just let them see how I was with their mom. And I tried to find points of interest. One of them is very into sports, watching tennis and watching F1 racing. And I was an auto journalist for a long time and I covered NASCAR and F1 and those kind of things. And so we kind of had conversation about that. And it was a natural bonding. It was an easier way than, oh, what can I do to make them me? And I will tell you, one of the things that I've learned is when you work to make people you, they may like you, but they don't respect you, right? There's no respect there. And so that was really my biggest learning point. And I will tell you that in the work that I do now, and I think you mentioned that you saw a video of me speaking at a fatherhood event, and it really comes from my mentor, Rob, his mentor, Harry. Harry has a thing he calls the 3 lights of leadership. So I didn't come up with these. These are not mine. These are 100% Harry, and they're genius and they're brilliant. And there are different levels of what he calls them lights. I call them levels of leadership. And when you look at it in terms of being a father, and especially a stepfather now, the lowest level is friendship, being a friend or a companion. Now, when you look at that level, we're having a great time. Ned, you, me, we might chat once in a while, go out, have a beer. But I have no responsibility towards you. I don't have a duty to do anything with you. We're just friends, right? Now, a lot of fathers, and I will say stepfathers, I know that from my experience, and divorced dads who are now dealing with having to be with their kids on a weekend and one day during the week, and where they may have been working a long time and not seeing their kids enough and not being a disciplinarian. They want to be a buddy. They want to go, I'm going to hang out with my kids. I want to be their buddy. And there's a difference between being a buddy for them and being kind and loving toward them. And they don't need a buddy. They need the next level. And the second level of this is the guide. So this is where we spend most of our time as mentors, as parents, as leaders, is the guide. I am ahead of you on the path. I have wisdom. We spoke about this whole session. I am the guide. I have wisdom, and it is my duty to guide you along this path. Now I have a responsibility for you because I've taken on that role. I've taken on that duty, right? So for me, that's the level where we live. And as stepfathers, you've got to be that steward, that guide for those kids and for your new wife. As you go forward, being the example, being the guide, sharing wisdom, all the things we talked about today. And then the third level, the top level, is the guardian. And the guardian's the toughest one for most people, especially fathers and especially stepfathers, because the guardian is the one who has to take out his sword and kick your ass back on the path when you've started to stray and done stupid shit, right? So the guardian is a tough one. Talk about tough love. It's got to come from the heart, but it's putting them back on that path. And trust me, Rob is my mentor. He's put his boot up my ass several times because that's his job as a mentor. That's his duty. If I'm being an idiot and I'm over here, he's got to kick my ass back over here. And a lot of people don't want to do that. It's very tough to do, right? It's the old quote, Ned, we've heard this. Everybody wants to be a lion until it's time to do lion shit.